Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an amazing live stream tonight. Thank you all for joining, and I am very excited for tonight. This is one that's been in the works for a little bit, and you guys on the channel know I've been talking about it for quite a little while. And when I reached out to this guest tonight to inquire about bringing them onto the channel, I was very excited to that they accepted my invitation and we were able to work out the details and get a schedule together. And so this is going to be a fun night. So for everyone in the live chat, welcome. Make yourself comfortable. My guest said that she'll hang out with us for a whole hour. So we got lots of time tonight. We're going to take our time. We're going to have a good time. And so be sure you get your questions or comments for my guest who I'm about to bring on now in the live chat. And you guys know how it is. If you want to submit a super chat, I'll see a notification. I'll make sure we get that to Leanne so that she can take a look at that and we'll address it and have a good time. So I know you guys are excited about it as I am. So give a warm welcome in the chat to the writer and director of Student Body, Miss Leanne Kurr. Welcome, Leanne. There we go. Hey, welcome, Leanne.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for making the time to come hang out in my little corner YouTube, if you will, for a little bit tonight. I really appreciate it so much.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Hi, everyone.
Yay! And just to say hi to some folks in the chat real quick before we dive in, we have Denisha's in the house and Beard Entertainment, Val, and Jacqueline's here. I see you there as well. So thank you guys for checking in. And I know we'll have a lot of people joining here as we get going, as typical with live streams, kind of ramp up. And so tonight, we're going to get to talk about a fun movie. So just to kind of give you a background on how this came about. So when I was browsing through Amazon Prime Video, and it was like midnight one night, and I was doing videos like I always do at night. I'm a night owl. And I was coming across, and it was one of the new releases was Student Body. And I said, whoa. Well, immediately the first thing that caught my attention was Harley Quinn Smith, because I've enjoyed her work. And I said, oh, and then I read the synopsis, and and Leanne, I'm a slasher, as you can probably tell by the name of the channel. I'm all about, of course, Wes Craven movies and slashers in general, and so I love that genre of horror. And anytime we've got someone in a mask or anything like this, I'm all over it. So I saw the synopsis. I said, "Oh, I got to watch this right now." So I just rented it like right then,
Oh, great.
and I just the minute I saw it, I said, "I'm watching it now," and I watched the whole thing. And no joke, it ended like 1:30 in the morning, something like that. The first thing I did was immediately started to try to find how to reach you. And so I just
Oh,
pulled up Google and I was like, I'm going to find her. I'm going to find a way to reach her. And thankfully I did. And I sent the email that night, it was like 2 in the morning before I went before I went to bed. And I sent the
oh,
email
that's
out.
exciting.
So
Yeah.
I was excited. That'll tell you, I really mean that. This has been in the works. I mean, ever since that first night. So that's a little history of how I discovered your amazing little movie that I just love it. And it's the perfect scenario because what better than to have closed in scenario, and I won't give any spoilers as far as reveals or anything like that. I'll be careful there, but I will basic premise, as far as being the boxed in situation, which I just love when someone's closed in and you're trying to get out. And it's just all those little, spider senses or whatever, go tingle all over the place. So before we dive into the movie though, because you can tell I'm very excited to talk about it. But let me backtrack first, and I'd like to know first how we got to this point. So if we could rewind, tell us first of all what brought you to want to be in the creative world of film.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen, to start off with. It's always wonderful as a filmmaker to feel like, your work jumped off the shelf, so to speak, and that someone
Hmm.
really enjoyed watching it. So I really appreciate those
Oh,
kind words.
you're very welcome.
Um, yeah, so I would say I started in the theater. I grew up as an actor. I was on stage a lot, just local community stuff, nothing like Broadway or Lion King or anything. But yeah, just like was a theater kid and grew up always performing. And so when I went to school, I went to a liberal arts college, and that was all about theater arts. So I did start in that world, but then because I got that more broad education, I was able
Hmm.
to discover playwriting and directing.
Oh,
Right. So
got
I'm really
you.
glad, I was like, oh, I'll go to conservatory and be like an awesome actor. But then I realized, no, I want to learn more. And so I started kind of a off Broadway career, so to speak, as an actor. Did some regional stuff, did some stuff in New York on stage,
Hmm.
and then kind of reached a point where I really started getting super excited about screenwriting in particular.
Nice.
So yeah, so playwriting, I had a couple things like produce like smaller productions, and just was
Hmm.
seeing that the things I wanted to do weren't really fit. I kept wanting to like do things. And people are like, I think that you're trying to write a film, and I'm like, what? Um,
That's awesome.
yeah. So I love theater, but everything I was trying to do just started becoming more and more cinematic in nature, and I
Hmm.
realized that a change in medium was actually better for how my brain works.
Yes.
Yeah, so then a couple years after graduating, I was in New York. I just started screenwriting and really getting into film production. I worked as a script supervisor
Mm.
in New York City for various non union productions for 3 years. So I like to consider that as my master's education in film without paying any money.
Heck yeah.
I worked on set instead because I couldn't afford a graduate degree.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, that's kind of like theater into, working in film. And then all that work as a script supervisor was just to get close to the director. I just wanted to be right
Hmm.
there, and I would learn from them and sometimes learn what to do. Sometimes I'd be like, okay, maybe I wouldn't do it that way. So kind of both ends. It was interesting to do. So that's kind of, and then yeah, I wrote this script and found some producers that were very excited about it. And then, we and went through the process to get the funds, and we're off to the races.
Wow, that's so cool. And I think you're right. What I mean, I found, of course, I'm not in necessarily in writing films or anything, but in general, when you can get into a position or around the position you want to be in, you can get hands on, get your hands dirty, if you will, in the nitty gritty.
Yes.
It is such an education, isn't it? It is classroom education is brilliant and it's wonderful, but there's something to be said for that real life application that you don't necessarily get that in a formal classroom setting. It's you get to see how the stuff happens, what happens when it doesn't go right, like and what happens when things don't always go as planned, and the stuff you can't really coach in school. You have to just kind of go through that. So I think that was a wonderful way to come up, and I'm sure it really I would think it would make you feel empowered even more when it came time to do your own project, right? Like it gave you that sense of, I have feeding, I have ground underneath my feet to stand on.
Yeah, you're so right, Stephen. Everything you're saying is on point. So basically, I've said this to a couple of filmmakers who have been like, "Oh, how'd you get your first one made?" I mean, I really feel that sometimes film school people, I if they have a great experience in film school, that's great. But I would, if people are considering a master's degree or even a undergrad degree,
Hmm.
it's a really heavy price tag. And I would
Yeah.
really advocate that if you're not in a situation where that price tag is not a problem, like if you're in that situation and you don't, you have the
Hmm.
funds, your parents have the funds, then yeah, it's a different situation. But for
Yeah.
me, it would have been all been loans. I would have
Yeah.
been $200,000 in debt or whatever. And
Yeah.
I just realized, you know what? Like, I just want to work on crews and I just want to be on set. And so for
Hmm.
3 years, that's what I did while I was just started developing this script. And it's honestly, I feel like I found a life hack. So if there's anyone in the audience here who's like, oh, how do I even like get started? What do I, it just seems so
Hmm.
overwhelming. There's, it's a really, there's no like definite track to getting into becoming a director. And it's a hard craft to learn because it's a team of one. It's just you.
Yeah. No
So I would say as
doubt.
a script supervisor, I would say life hack. Like as a script supervisor, you're in the center of it all. You're right by the director. You're having conversations with the DP. You're talking with the
Hmm.
editor as you go as well. You're talking with, production design, with set deck, with whoever.
Wow.
You're even sometimes every once in a while talking to your gaffer and being like, hey, like the light continuity, are we matching that? Or, I'm not saying, like
Yeah.
I'm
No.
telling the
Yeah.
gaffer what to do. I'm just saying
Right.
like you're having conversations with everyone. You're learning every rope of the business, every single facet of film production. So I would just say, like, yeah, that's me working with my wonderful DOP, Luca Bazzelli, who this might be a fun fact for some of your listeners. So Luca Bazzelli is the son of Bojan Bazzelli, who has worked with Gore Verbinski many times. He shot The Ring. Um,
Oh my
so
goodness!
so Luca grew
Really?
up on set, working under his
Ah,
father, who has shot some very famous horror films and Gore Verbinski films.
that is
But
awesome.
that's not why I hired Luca. He's an extremely talented person, but it was fun to be like, he came to. I remember we were shot listing, and one day he opened up this like lovely leather, but like this lovely leather cover, and on the
Uh-huh.
cover it was The Ring embossed, and it was from
Oh.
the set of The Ring when his dad worked with Gore on that. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, and he was like, yeah, my dad gave it to me, and I was like, cool.
No doubt. I'd have been geeking out a little bit if it's not been there. I got to tell you, that's pretty cool.
Oh my
That
gosh, The Ring scared the
oh
crap out of me in middle school.
oh, let me tell you. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one because that movie messed with me to the point where I said I'm never watching it again. And I've never seen it again. It was that powerful,
Wow. Yeah.
and I probably should watch it again because it's been a long time. I watched it when it first came out,
Yeah.
but that movie, it made me have chills. It
Yes.
was spine tingling, like it just.
It's so good.
And I'll kind of share a moment with the movie. And we're not here to talk about the rings. Don't worry, folks. But this is just a
Tangent.
moment. Yeah, yeah. We're going to pause just for a second. Um, the moment that got me, I think, more than anything in there was at the very end when we think, spoiler alert, guys, this is a very old movie. I'm not going to, spoilers. When Samara is, we think she's freed, right? They found the
Yes.
well, and it's like,
Yes.
you start to feel this peaceful, like it's
Oh,
closed up. What a really wild ghost story. And then when she's tucking her son in bed, and he looks at her and he's like, and she's like, yeah, we freed her. We helped her. And he's like, Mom, you weren't supposed to help her.
what'd you
Oh,
do,
oh,
Mom?
I got chill bumps. I'm not lying. I still do.
Yeah.
I will never
So
forget that
good.
moment. My heart sunk to the floor. And then it was a horrific ending with the boyfriend or whoever. I can't remember who he was.
Yeah.
Anyway, that movie is there's not a lot of movies that make like an impact, like real impact,
Yeah.
where you never forget a moment, and I'll never
Yeah.
forget that moment. So that's awesome that we share that together.
Yeah. So
Whew.
yeah, totally agree. And working with someone like Luca who just grew up on these incredible shoots and with his dad, it was just a really amazing experience. But yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So it really, I would say, as you said, Stephen, the confidence to be able to work to, and I did a couple things. I did a music video, I did a short, I did a web series as a director. So I had a
Okay.
couple short form stuff before
Mm-hmm.
I went on
Mm-hmm.
set for Student Body, but I had worked on several features as a script suit and
That's
had
awesome.
gone through, we had 18 days for Student Body, which is a very accelerated shoot.
Oh, that's quick.
It's really
Wow.
quick. I had worked on some films where it was 18 days. I was used to that pace.
That's good.
So I didn't love it for, I hope for the
Mm-hmm.
next one to have more time.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it was a situation where I would really encourage, I don't know if your audience base is like filmmakers or just film fans, but if
A lot
anyone
of
out
mostly
there,
fans, but there's some of both though. There's some of both. Yeah.
yeah. So anyone out there who is looking to find a way in, I would just really encourage just get on set as much as you can, so that when you do end up in the director's chair or in a position like a producer or whatever, it feels like home. It feels
Mm-hmm.
comfortable as it can be.
Yes, all the pressure's on you, but at least you've had some type of a preparation, right, for that moment to arrive. And I've always found in life that when you prepare, good things happen for you.
Yeah.
Opportunities happen for you. And
Yeah.
so I have to ask you another question before we really get into the meat and bones of the movie. So, was there that moment? And I know you talked about how you kind of learned that you were basically a film writer in the making. Did you always consider yourself a storyteller? Like when you were younger, were you one of those that were always, the imagination was always writing, thinking of stories? And I'm just curious, like, was there a moment where you said, I want to write, I want to tell stories?
It's a great question. It's interesting. I remember in sixth grade, we were supposed to write these short stories, and I wrote like a noir. I wrote like a detective story.
Ooh.
Like it was a mystery. It was like a whodunit, like very like
Oh.
Raymond Chandler. Like, and I didn't even know who Raymond Chandler was when I was in sixth grade. But it was like this hard-boiled detective who was female, and I remember my sixth grade teacher kind of was like, she like didn't get it, and I could feel like back then I was like, I feel like this is pretty cool. And she was like, I don't know, Leanne, like, why'd you write a detective story? It was supposed to be
Oh.
this. So I felt like I tried earlier on, and I always
Hmm.
wanted to like write snappy dialogue, and like just I loved, like When Harry Met Sally, and just like really
Yeah.
fast paced repartee. But I think it took a little time into college where I could feel confident about approaching my own work. I think for a bit of time I was like, oh, I can't do that. I thought I couldn't.
Hmm.
So it was
Yes.
nice to kind of come back around to that like pleasure as a kid. Like, when you're a kid and you're just
Mm-hmm.
enjoying it, you might not be
Yeah.
the best guitar player or the best
Hmm.
sandcastle maker in the world, but you just like you're like, yeah.
Yes.
So it's fun to come
Yes.
back around to that in college and be like, you know what, this is really fun.
Oh, that's awesome! Wow, and what an experience too when you can have that, when you can just kind of like throw everything off and just be yourself in the moment, and
Yeah.
I think great things come from that. I really do. And now, like you say, sometimes we're not, like you talked about guitar. I can relate to. I mean, I'm a musician. I remember when I was young, I swore I was Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course,
Oh yeah. I
and
mean, yeah.
I knew three chords, but man, they were really good chords.
Shredded those
They
three
were
chords.
shredded them. I mean,
GCNA just killing it.
that's right. um, Real quickly, and we got in the chat, we got Carrie Crave Cinema, who's a friend of the channel. She says, Leanne has such a great energy. Hello, Leanne. It's an honor to have you here. Yes, it
Thank you,
is.
Carrie. It's great to
It
be
is
here.
such an honor. It's such an honor. And then Carrie also says, I've seen her. She says, can I just say, not giving anything away, I love the ending of Student Body. What a great ending.
Thank you,
Ooh,
Carrie.
that ending, man. Woo,
Thank you. I really
woo.
appreciate that.
That ending, Eliane, that ending. That ending. I'm telling. Okay,
Good, good.
it's good. Okay, so we fast forward now. Okay, so you have the story. So can you just kind of walk me through the writing process you went through for this movie? Where did the story come from? Any inspiration you would like to share without any incriminating evidence? But anything you'd like to share about the creative process of you thinking of this storyline and just kind of making it come together, writing it out.
Totally. It's so funny, Stephen. A couple weeks ago, I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, so central
Hmm.
PA, and I'm very
Okay.
proud. I'm very proud to come from there. But I
Hmm.
had an interview with Penn Live, which is like the local news arts thing, and I was interviewing with this guy, and I was like, yeah, like I had a hard time in high school, and I really wanted to write about how hard high school can be. And then I was like, wait a second, this is for my local area, and I was like, but I
Oh
like my school.
no!
I like my school. I like my school. Like I
Whoops!
realized I was like actually kind of like throwing my high school under the bus when I
I
didn't.
love that. I
I
think
felt
that's awesome.
terrible. I was like,
Oh,
this isn't based on my high school.
yeah, exactly. It's somebody else, one of my friends from Florida. Right? That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I did. So
Uh,
I did love and going back to the source of it, I did love my high school. It was a lovely place, but
mhm.
yeah, I don't know if anyone here at the chat can connect with this. I did deal with like bullying and social anxiety. So I think in middle
Yes.
school, particularly, just a lot of like was recipient of bullying and some
Yep.
emotional harassment. It takes you a
Yes.
while sometimes to like be like, oh, that was like not great. And I had a
Yes.
lot of social anxiety at that age where I really felt like I was just an outsider, and I felt like other people were meant to have friends, but like I wasn't one of
Mm,
them. I felt like
yeah.
kind of, and it's something I felt
Oh.
like I channeled a bit into the film, where with Jane, it's like she's kind of friends and she's kind of still friends with Merritt, but like not really. Like she's kind of on the
Yes.
outside, and it's an
There's
uncomfortable middle ground that I felt a lot as a kid.
there's a tension when I watch the movie. There's this like kind of facade of support, but there's a tension there that's thick between the two of them.
Yes.
And as the movie progresses, we really when it kind of like the onion peels back, we get into it more. But yeah, I totally felt that from those two, and I'm like, and I kept on thinking to myself as I was watching. I mean, like Jane, uh, you're better than what's going on here. You don't deserve to be that kind of treated this way, and it's interesting how I think it's this common denominator we all have, especially in those years of acceptance. We want to be a part of something, a group, somewhere, and it's really, and sometimes I think we're willing, and kind of what you see in the movie, we are willing to kind of do things maybe that we shouldn't do, and accept certain act behaviors that we shouldn't, because we want that longing for acceptance. And
Yeah.
I really did. I felt for Jane a lot in this movie, and I just have to say this, and listen, I mentioned to you earlier, Leanne, I bounce around. I'm unscripted, so I like to
Oh,
just kind of go where the river
we'll
flows,
talk
if
about the
that's
rain. It's
okay.
fine. It's fine.
That's exactly. Oh no, but there's this one scene, and I'll bounce around with scenes. Yeah, but the scene where Jane goes into Mr. Onspach and Christian Camargo. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, what a
We're
guy,
going to
right?
talk amazing, and I can't wait to talk to you in a little bit about casting and all that fun stuff, because I'm really anxious to hear your thoughts on everything. But that it's the scene where she's Merritt's pressuring her to get the retest done,
Yes.
and Nadia, and so she goes into that. You know the scene, of course. She goes in there and he's putting the blind down,
Yeah.
and one thing about I love from this scene is there's two type of people. There's fiddle people and there's hammer people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man. And then of course we understand. He explains exactly what the whole. You remember he gave the whole. Well, remember, you know what I mean. I say that reflexively. But yeah, when he tells the story about the whole analogy he gave about the fiddle and the hammer. But the point I'm trying to get to in a very long way is that scene turns very dark very quick, and you hear the clock, and then all of a sudden we're in the hall with the door shut, and it gets so silent. And at first I'm like, what's happening? And then the way you have her come out of the room. Now when Jane comes out of the room, I knew immediately something happened that shouldn't have. And so again, my brain's going all over with the movie, but I wanted to tell you I commend you for that scene because it was done in a way that communicated the weight of what happened, but not in a crass or inappropriate manner. But you communicated the message. So I immediately got it when I saw her. When I saw her run out, anyway. Just I want to say thank you for that scene. It was brilliantly done. It was great.
Thank you. That's so meaningful. I really appreciate that, Stephen. And
Yeah.
there were so many things that went into the balance of that scene because I also felt as an audience member, I think at that stage, and I'm curious if this, you try to direct the audience a bit just as you're directing the movie, but people have different experiences with it. I wanted people to feel really uneasy about Ansbach,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I knew that the second we see him touch her, the second we see it on camera, there's no longer any ambiguity.
No.
He's the worst. He's off. Like
He's
I
terrible.
love the idea that we're on the door
Yes.
and many things could be happening.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I love, I had someone the other day ask, like, oh, what did you intend? Like, what were you wanting us to think? And I appreciate that because I felt like in that moment, I really loved having the audience's imagination fill in that blank.
Yes.
Just like as you may have noticed with the moments of violence in the film, a lot of it is implied. And that was I'll bounce around a little bit too. So that was very much inspired by Lynn Ramsay's brilliant film, You Were Never Really Here, which is with Joaquin Phoenix. It's a gorgeous film and it's all about the implication of violence.
Oh man.
And it's an incredible movie. And I felt like having that shot on the door and just dollying, like zooming in a little bit. I think we did like a digital zoom in post, but like just an implied dolly, pretending. Yeah.
Hey, it looked great.
Just a little electronic dolly, if you will, and just her expression. And I found that so interesting, Stephen, because I talked with many different audience members, and I'm curious if there anyone who's seen it, what they thought. So many people had different takes on what happened. We had some people who were like, nothing happened. Why are they trying to fire him? And then we had some people being like, oh, he might have raped her. So we have this whole range, and that's based on their experience, what they're bringing to the movie. And I think that might be something connecting the theater, where it's like theater allows you to fill in the blanks because not everything is literal. You can't do everything on stage. So for this moment, I did want it to be ambiguous, but I would think that given, as you say, her reaction when she comes out, it's very, I think, a logical conclusion that there's something horrible that went on.
Yes.
That's implied. Yeah.
It is absolutely. I connected with it right away, and I didn't know what, but I didn't need to know what because I knew it wasn't good. Whatever. I knew it was something that was not appropriate.
Yes.
And so I just thought it was masterfully done because, again, I think you're right. The imagination, the element of imagination is powerful. And not only in film, but we can get scared thinking there's a monster in the closet. And as a grown up, even if I hear a sound, I get a little I'm like, what's going on? The imagination is so strong. And I think as a writer, what you did was great because it allowed us to imagine the worst or maybe not the worst. Like you say, we bring our own, our own worldview into the situation. But I think the imagination worked there so brilliantly because again, I was just like, what's happening? What's going on inside this room? And when I saw her, I didn't want to know because
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't something I would want to see. So,
Yeah. And it's fascinating to have some people, yeah, it's fascinating the different takes you get on it. But
yeah,
I think that there's enough there to
hmm
show that
agreed.
there are little comments in the movie. You might miss them. They're
Hmm
meant to be kind of on the periphery, but there are little
hmm
comments that show that there was more that went on. But
Yep.
even if not, he does like throw her stuff on the floor, and he's really like it's
Oh,
not good.
no.
So yeah,
Grabs her bag. Pencils fly everywhere. I mean, it's such a violation, of her privacy. Just, I mean, it's very, I'm sure that you've had things like that happen in your life, and I have. We all have, where you just feel violated, and
yeah,
even going through your stuff like that's very personal. And I'm like, this guy is not a nice man. One thing's for sure, he's not only not a good teacher, he's not a good guy. This is not a good guy at all, and there's something really wrong here.
yeah.
Um, we have a super chat from I shot him 6 times. Thank you for the $5 super chat, buddy. He says, "Hey Leanne, I'm from right down the road in
Ah,
York.
all
Love to
right,
see someone from home doing big things. I'll be checking your movie out after the stream."
all right.
Awesome! Yay! Yes,
Yeah,
I shot him. You got it. Yeah, definitely watch it. Watch it tonight. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. You'll be glad.
thanks.
Thanks for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate your support of the channel. Carrie says, I prefer implications rather than actuality, to be honest. So I love what you did there, Leanne. Yep,
Thank you. And also, I
absolutely.
think it reflects it. We're voyeurs to what's happening, and that's what's
Hmm
happening in real life right now. I mean,
Yep,
you have the Kavanaugh situation. You have
right.
Deshaun Watson for those who are involved
Oh,
with the
yes.
NFL. I mean,
Yep.
it's we're not in the room. We're
No,
not in the room where it happens.
no.
Just like Hamilton, we're not
Just,
in the room where it happens.
that's
So
right.
it's all what can we take from the aftermath? Who are we going to believe? Whose story are we emphasizing? And for me, that felt more truthful to show a possible assault
Yes.
than just to be like, it's black and white, because
hmm
there's no video camera of Deshaun Watson. There's no video camera of Brett
No.
Kavanaugh during that night in college. So like
Right.
we have to kind of figure our way through that and muddle through that.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. It was a really, really smart choice. Loved that. Now, I'm going to talk now about. Let me pull a great shot here of our amazing. I call it the ensemble cast here. Um,
Yes.
there and I'm telling you, this group is a fun group, and they're all so different, but it's that cliquish group that I was talking about earlier. And I have to say that there's a bit of an element to this movie that made me feel like a little bit of Breakfast Club meets Scream. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you know that's
Yes.
kind of what I felt like a little bit here. Um,
Love that.
and so, what was your idea for our central ensemble for now? Excluding Mr. Osbach, but just on these four here, our main cast. What was your inspiration for? Was there any inspiration for these characters from like your past, or were they all just completely imagined in your mind completely?
Well, I love that you said Scream meets Alfred.
Breakfast
Meets
Club.
Breakfast Club, because my thought was always that it's Breakfast Club meets Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh,
Because
there you go.
yeah, but I think Scream is also a great comp. So I definitely wanted to evoke that John Hughes-ness of like this
Hmm
ensemble of very different personalities, and having that be expressed through what they wear, like what do their lockers look like? Because John Hughes does such a great job in that movie of establishing
Yes.
character through like what are their lunches? Is it a super fancy sushi plate, or is it like a bit of like potato chips and she sprinkles it on
Yeah.
her hair or whatever? Like
Right.
so
Yes.
yes, so I think John Hughes was a big influence, and then yeah, I mean, I definitely wanted to play into archetypes. That was definitely an intentional choice where you have
hmm
on the onset. I also wanted to invert it a bit, where Nadia, who's on the far right, played by Harley Quinn Smith, she's more of the jock character, which is typically a
Yep.
guy.
That's right.
And I wanted to flip that a bit. Whereas Ellis, who's played by the wonderful Anthony Kevon, he's in the center there. He's more of the artist type, which you typically see played by a girl. So I did want to do some gender reversals with that. We're missing
Okay.
French in this shot, so he was the curly haired one. Yeah, on the
There
far
he
left
is.
there. Got that the class clown. I
Yes.
wanted to, and Jane is kind of the brains, and Merritt, of course, you can draw a line between her and either Claire from Breakfast Club or Regina George from Mean Girls. Like there's a definite
Uh,
like
that's
heritage there.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's
So I
good.
wanted to pull these familiar archetypes, maybe do a little bit of twist, and also make sure for casting that we were casting for today's audience. It wasn't all just white people. So that was deliberate. But I would say then the interest of the film was to take those seemingly obvious archetypes and kind of show their vulnerability so that by the end of the film we've really seen all of them, like all of their like messier and more vulnerable sides that's beyond like their
Yes.
brand. It's like all of them have like, oh, this is like like for Ellis, it's like, oh, like I'm artsy and I'm like an anarchist and like I hate the government. But then
Yes.
by the end we see a really vulnerable side to him that's afraid and isn't able to be like that cool artsy kid anymore. And for
No.
Nadia, it's like she's tough and she's like, listen, like I'm not quoting her, but she's got this
Yeah.
tough exterior and nothing can like penetrate that. But then things happen and we see she can't keep that up anymore. So that
No.
was a deliberate transformation where what happens when the cool girl can't stay cool because the things around them are too scary and crazy.
That's right.
So
And it's interesting how when the pressure's on, right? When the realization becomes, or when it becomes real that no one's getting out, it looks like no one's going to get out of this thing. How you really see the truest core, I believe, is always brought out in trial. And when we're in our toughest moments, that's when we see what our true character is, what we're actually made of for real. With all of the the masks are all removed, and this is the real thing.
yeah,
And we see that happen in this movie as it. And I hate to say it devolve, but there's a little bit of that happening in the madness of the moments. And when you get to that confrontation, and again, I'm not going to give any spoilers because this movie's only been out for a couple of months, so I'll wait. Maybe I'll have you back in the summer where we can do a spoiler talk about it. But I would love that. But when we get to the confrontation between, well, like the more of the towards the end confrontation between Jane and Merritt, that what I'm talking about
yeah,
there,
yeah,
the big confrontation. It's just like watching everything unravel. It's like just all of that put together veneer, all of
yeah,
that is just gone away, and now you're literally seeing the core of what's happening here now, and it's disturbing. It is
yeah,
disturbing to see it. You know.
yeah. I
Um,
think that's such a great observation. And I think that you brought up the issue like onion layers or layers. I
mm-hmm.
think that it's like our external behaviors are sometimes this tip of this iceberg. And then
Yes.
underneath it, like we're behaving this way because of da da da. So it's like, oh, I yelled at someone at a Starbucks, but it's
Mm-hmm.
because of like 18 different reasons. Like my mom's in the hospital, COVID's happening, I don't have a
Yeah.
job. Like there could be a billion reasons why you yelled at that person in the Starbucks. So
Yeah.
I feel like for that moment, it's like you're now seeing the whole iceberg of like this is why Merritt has treated Jane this way, and it's because of this. And it's like I think a pretty crazy moment. So yeah, that's where me working with Cheyenne Haynes, who is truly, truly such a talented and thoughtful actress. And
Mm-hmm.
she did a wonderful job with Merritt.
She did. She nailed the character. She was very convincing, and yeah, I think, honestly, the whole cast I thought did a great job. I think
Thank
you
you.
absolutely nailed the casting of this. I thought
Thank
that
you.
for everyone in their lanes, they were wonderful in their lanes, and French, right? French, um, man, I'll tell you, there's something about Eric French that he makes me smile. I just love
I
that guy. I
know.
love that character, and
I know.
I hate to say favorites because they're all good, but he's up there for
Yes.
me.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we were so great. It was so great to have Austin, who had just come off of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Hmm.
So he had just come from a very large project with Guillermo del Toro, who produced, and we were just so happy to have him on this.
Oh man, it was you definitely you hit a home run. It was great, and again I mentioned Harley Quinn Smith earlier. I already been a fan of hers for a while now, and I think that the energy that they all brought to their characters, I enjoyed it. I really did. It was fun, and then it got real disturbing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even in the beginning, though, the way you set it up as a viewer when I'm watching it, there's there's always this current, there's undercurrent of unsettled. That there's just something not right with this whole thing from the very get go, and we learn as we get going into it exactly what happens. And I have to say, and tell me if you could, if we could maybe just jump into some casting stuff now, kind of while we're kind of
Yeah,
heading
sure.
that way.
Sure.
So Christian Camargo, let me tell you, Mr. Onspach, man,
Yeah.
this now, what? Tell me about the story of getting him into this role. Can you walk me through that from your perspective?
Yes, we were so lucky to have him. He was always towards the top of my list. I mean, like really always, like pretty much at the top. Because we had so like you try to you have to finance the film, so you're trying to get
Sure.
people to get that financing in. But he was always like I was like Christian Camargo because I knew him from some of your listeners or viewers might know him from Dexter season one. He has a
Hmm.
very like well-known turn as Rudy in Dexter season one, and he also was wonderful in Penny Dreadful, and he's been in Twilight and The Hurt Locker, and just I
Wow.
mean, what an incredible pedigree. The guy's worked with Catherine Bigelow. You're fine. And I know he had done a ton of Shakespeare, so I came up doing classical theater as well. And yeah, so basically, our wonderful casting director Russell Bose got the material to him, and I think he really saw my background in theater and then also the fact that I was a first time filmmaker, which is always, it can be a little tough for that first time for people to be like, yeah, sure, we'll give you money. Like it's
Right.
hard. But he saw that I had,
Yes.
on my IMDb page, I had lots of credits working as a script supervisor. It wasn't my first time on set. And I
Hmm.
think he was really excited. I think the thing he said to me was that he, what he loved about the role when he read the script was that he really didn't know how to make head or tails of Onspach and that it felt like a challenge. Because he's like, I don't know what
Wow.
drives this guy. I don't know why he's doing what he's doing, but he's like, I'm
Hmm.
excited to like create that character. So it was really nice to see that he responded to this kind of cryptic character, like
Yeah.
early on I wrote a scene where Onspach like explained himself to Jane and I was like, that is so boring. We don't need to know his backstory. We don't need to know if he was mistreated by his dad. Like it's like the mystery. I mean, you see it with so many of these classic films, like it's the mystery. You don't want to explain that away. So he
Yes.
responded to that.
And I appreciated that, and there's kind of a big debate going on with Halloween Ends. I don't know if you follow the Halloween franchise, but this,
Mm,
there's this whole big thing about is in Halloween Ends, are they going to try to explain Michael Myers,
right.
the past source of his this otherworldly power he has? And I'm always in the position of keep it ambiguous. Don't
Yeah.
let us know because it
Yeah.
goes back to what we talked about earlier, Leanne, with the imagination
Yeah.
because it's just so much powerful. So I appreciate that you were decided to not go that direction because I think it's better that he makes it more mysterious and more unsettling because I don't know what this guy's capable of 'cause I have no
Yes.
clue.
You didn't know
And
where he was before he came to the school.
no,
You
no,
didn't
that's
know.
right. I have no idea. I mean, he could have come off Murder Row. I have no clue. He could have faked his resume.
Yeah,
Who
could have faked his
knows?
identity. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Carrie says he played the creeper so well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, hey Jacqueline. Jacqueline says he did a fantastic job in that role.
Thank you.
Absolutely,
Thank you. Yes.
so good.
He was wonderful. And he was so great to work with. Just a really wonderful person on set. So,
Oh man, that's so awesome. So now let's talk about how did Harley Quinn Smith come into play? Now, was she one that you? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but was she one that you had in mind, or did she? How did that whole come about? I'm just really
yeah.
curious.
It was very serendipitous. So again, our wonderful casting director came up with lists for some of the other roles.
Okay.
And she was on the list and I was like, I don't know. I wasn't optimistic about. I was like,
Hmm.
she's a big deal. She comes from a big deal
Yeah.
family. Like, I was like, I don't know. Like, hopefully she comes to the audition.
Hmm.
And it was really crazy situation, Stephen. So she came in and she read for merit. So initially we had her
Oh.
read for merit, and she did. I mean,
Okay.
she's a wonderful actress, so she did a great job. But I remember afterwards, that after that day of casting, which was in April of 2019, so a couple months
Hmm.
before we started shooting, I went to my producers and I was like, I really like Harley Quinn, but I feel like she's Nadia. And I'm not kidding you, Steven. That night, I get an email from our casting director. She had spontaneously, of her own accord, submitted a video audition of her reading the Nadia scene
Are
instead.
you serious? That is
She did it on
awesome.
her. And it was like the same night that I was like, I feel like I want her back, but I feel like I want her for Nadia. And she sent it
Wow.
in of her own accord. She just like did it because
Amazing.
she wanted it, and then I was like, yeah, cool, done, cast, like done.
That's meant to
So
be.
yeah, I just was so grateful that she just really felt drawn to that role and really wanted to do the project. And yeah, she did it on her own. She just like
Wow.
sent it in. So it was great.
Yeah, Oh man, I can imagine. That had to be like, yes, signed, sealed, delivered, done.
Good.
That's a done
We're good.
deal.
We're good.
Now let's talk about your casting for Jane.
Yes. Okay. So Monse Hernandez is she's just such an incredible talent. So the first day we shot, I'll talk about casting one second, but the first day we
Yeah, yeah.
shot was, so people who might see the movie and then those who haven't, it's pretty early on in the film,
Hmm.
is the scene she goes after school and talks to Ansbach, Professor Ansbach, Mr. Ansbach, about the retake. And I deliberately did that so that those jitters of like the first day of shooting would already be present for her to approach this very kind of scary teacher. And it came across
Nice.
really beautifully, but also she's just such a pro. She was so wonderful. She did like some, there's a scene where she does a stunt, and that was her. Like she did the stunt, and it was just
Cool.
wonderful.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a video audition. We had read, we read a lot of young, wonderful actresses for the role, and they came in, and it took a beat to be like, well, I'm not quite sure that that's there. I really wanted underneath Jane for there to be this warmth, and then also
Yes.
this really ingrained sense of not being good enough, of her just I
Hmm.
wanted to feel with every line that there's like a question mark at the end of every line, or like she couldn't, even her like statements are questions because she's so self-doubtful. She's like
Hmm.
not able to trust herself and isn't really secure in who she is. And so
Yes.
I she really brought through this video audition this warmth, and then also this just inherent yeah, that feeling that I had for many years as a young
Yeah.
person of just everything
Yeah.
you do, you're like, was that okay? Is that
Hmm.
good? And she just was so natural with it. So we did that. She submitted a tape, and then I worked with her. She was out of town, so I worked with her over Zoom and just did
Okay.
like a reading session and gave her some notes. And then she really was wonderful. So it was all great.
Wow. Oh, that's so awesome. And an 18-day shoot. So
Yeah.
where did you guys decide to where did you decide to film the movie? Where did you guys is there if you'd like to reveal, any information
Yeah.
on that, whatever you're comfortable with.
Of course. So Georgia has a really great tax credit right now. That's why a lot of, Tyler Perry, Marvel, a lot of
Hmm.
people shoot down there, as I'm sure your fans know.
Hmm.
So we decided to take advantage of that. So we did 5 days. We did 5 days in Atlanta, then an additional 3 days in the Atlanta area. Then we went up to a boarding school in the mountains. So northern Georgia has these gorgeous
Wow.
mountains. You can see a little bit of them when we're outside during a soccer game. You can see some of the mountains. And we stayed in a boarding school. It was 7 minutes from the North Carolina border, so
Oh
we
my
barely
goodness.
eked in the Georgia.
Ooh.
And it was really lovely. So we were there for an additional 2 weeks, 2 5-day weeks, for a
Okay.
total of 18. So yeah, it
Wow.
was all in Georgia, and luckily, so I was living in New York at the time. I'm in LA now, but actually that summer, it was in August of 2019. It was hotter in New York than it was in Georgia. So we really lucked out. We got gorgeous. We did a lot of nights, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yes.
Yes, and it
Yes.
was just we really. I mean, my stunt coordinator Rocky, who's done a lot of stuff with Marvel. He's just like a wonderful guy. We're all just standing around, and he's like, "Are we in Georgia right now? Because it felt amazing." So we
That's
lucked
awesome.
out. Yeah.
That's perfect, man. That's another good sign, right? Another good sign. It's excellent. Now, for the school scenes where we're basically, let's say, the final act. Of course, most of it is within the walls there of the school, but Was this in an actual school there that you were able to rent out to film all of the scenes in the library, the whole, the all those scenes that we see in the movie? Um, that's all. That's not a set, right? That's on actual practical location in
Yes.
Georgia.
So it was actually a hybrid of three different schools.
Okay.
So the exterior, the gorgeous exterior, and then
Yes.
the wonderful lounge where they have the party. That's
Yes.
Oglethorpe University, which is right in
Oh.
Atlanta.
Okay.
And they were wonderful. They had just, a Netflix series had just shot there. And I'm really glad they didn't demand Netflix money because we definitely wouldn't have been able to do that. So we did a couple key locations at Oglethorpe. The exterior, there's a scene in the parking lot where Jane and Merritt are talking and you see the back.
Yes.
That's all Oglethorpe.
Okay.
Then we only had Christian in Atlanta, so we had to do a couple hallway scenes. So we had to find a school nearby. So that was just for his classroom and a couple of hallway stuff, Jane's locker. And then the rest of it, so the outdoor soccer game, the art room, the library. Oh, the library was Oglethorpe. The art room and then a couple other key places. The rest of it was all in the boarding school.
Oh, wow. The beauty of film, I guess, amazing. And you know what's crazy though? All of these, now that I know how you have these different locations, it's so seamless in the movie though.
Good.
I mean, seriously, I would have believed if you'd have told me, yeah, we got this one location, we did the whole movie there. I would have been like, awesome. You would have
Good.
fooled me. You totally would have fooled me because it doesn't feel like I'm watching three different places at all ever. And
Good.
so kudos to you and your editing team and who, by the way, how does the editing process with you as the writer director? I imagine you're pretty hands-on, right, in the editing room. I'm guessing. I mean, could be wrong, but I'm just curious on what's that process after you do the 18 days, you film, you hit your deadline, you're like, woo, we got it done, right? And yeah, I can imagine, my goodness, the pressure must have been intense those 18 days, but you got it all done, and then now it's all post-production work.
Yeah.
So tell me through, can you just kind of help walk us through the editing process if you could? Just kind of give us an idea of what that looks like.
Yeah, it was a really great process. So my editor, Sharon Amir, she just worked on Love, Victor, and she's now doing some of the Chucky, I think the new Chucky movie. So she's also doing some horror stuff
Nice.
as well. Yes. So I think honestly, Stephen, for the next film, I'll maybe do it a little differently because she did the first assembly, which is just basically like stringing all the stuff together. It's like pre-rough cut. It's like not even a rough cut. It's like just an assembly. And I watched the assembly and I don't think I will do that again. It's just so rough and you watch it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is crap. Like it's just horrible. Like you feel like your eyes are gonna bleed. Like they're in Raiders of the Lost Ark, like they open the ark and like your eyes just like bleed.
Yes.
That's how I felt when I watched the assembly. And it's not Sharon's fault. It's just like because it's so early.
Yeah.
So moving forward, I think I will wait until later in the process. And what's so great about the editor is I heard a filmmaker, I think it was Paul Thomas Anderson speaking about this the other day in a podcast where it's like the editor wasn't there on the day on the shoot. So the editor is basically the audience. They don't have any investment in how long it took you to get that shot. They just want to do what's best for the film. So it's so great to have that voice come in and be like, cool, I know it took you 8 hours to get that, but you're going to have to cut it because it's not serving the movie. And you need someone who can be brutal and just be like, yep, that needs to go because of pace and because of this and because of this. Yes. So she was wonderful. She was just such a great creative voice. So I collaborated with her. We had a week where I was just there with her every single day working on the director's cut. And then my producing team watched, and then we kind of shaped the movie as a team from there. So it was great. I would just say for future filmmakers and also for myself, just wait a little longer to watch because it's just too early.
Too early.
Or you'll get the Nazi eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Like cut some stuff out. Bring me what you. I trust you, right? I guess I hire you because I trust you, and that you're going to have the vision for this, and bring me what you think we should look at, right?
Yeah.
Then I can understand that because I don't know, if it were me, I would be like, oh no, this has to stay, and then it'd be a 4-hour movie, is what it would be, because I wouldn't want any of it to go. Because you're right, you're in the trenches, your blood, sweat, and tears is in the making of this movie, and you don't want to lose any of those scenes in your mind that they should be there, right? It's got to be a challenge to them. But is it? Do you find it hard to release that control a little bit? Is it instinctually hard?
It can be hard, but I think if you value the creative opinion of a person you're
Mm-hmm.
working with,
Mm-hmm.
you'll take what they say seriously, and you'll also understand that they're coming at it from a perspective that's very valuable at that time.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you really are too close to the
Mm-hmm.
material to be
Mm-hmm.
able to, for me, I know there are
Yeah.
some directors that edit their own movies and do a brilliant job. And that's wonderful. I love bringing someone in who has
Yeah.
no emotional stakes,
Mm-hmm.
that I can trust. So
Makes sense. No, and it worked. It worked great, and the final product was excellent. So now we're not gonna give anything away here on this stream because there's a lot of people in the chat that are saying that they're gonna watch it after the stream.
great,
A couple of people now have said that, and so
great.
um, yeah, Jacqueline has a comment. She said, "I love the scene transitions in the film, how actions flowed into another, like between some of the classroom scenes and yeah, exactly, and later on in the
Thank
film,
you.
so good. I agree. That's what I totally know what you're talking about, Jacqueline. It flows. It's flawless. Again, it looks like you're in one location, and there's never seemingly any difference of any. It's just like it's all uniform. So absolutely. And then Maverick Media says, I have the same problem. Cutting your movie down has got to be the hardest part of filmmaking. Yeah.
That's why you get the Lord of the Rings director's cut and the theatrical cut.
There you go.
Even Peter Jackson is like, guys, but what about this?
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh. Now, I know we're getting close to our time, but I have to show this individual. I mean, I have to.
It's in the trailer, to be fair, so
True.
it's
That's
okay.
true.
Yeah,
Okay, there you go.
this
Fair enough.
individual.
I will tell you something. This scene that, yeah, and you're right. I do recall it now in the trailer. Yes, it is. And when I think it's Jane is looking, and this person is, and by the way, I commend you on gloves.
Hmm.
Every single inch of anything is covered,
Right.
and I think that's brilliant. And anytime there's a who done it kind of or a masked person, uh, and I don't like it when they show hands or they show,
Mm. Mm.
because for me, I'm all about the mystery. That's when you talked about your mystery you wrote when you were in school. Like, oh, I love mysteries. I love the unmasking, all this stuff.
Yes, me too.
So I want to say kudos to you for everything being covered. I noticed that right away. I'm like, oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah.
But this scene was just creepy. I'm going to tell you when she was just sitting, and you know how uncomfortable it is when you're with someone or they maybe don't know them and they're staring at you and you're like, okay, we all look at each other, but then they're still staring at you, and you get this really weird, this uncomfortable kind of feeling, right? Like we've all had that. I felt that in this scene. I felt that in this scene. I said,
Yeah,
"This is not comfortable.
yeah.
This should not be going on right here." So I love how the execution of the person in the suit in the
Thank
mask.
you.
And also, I don't know if you drew inspiration from any particular. I'll just ask you: have you drawn any inspiration from any particular serial killer character in horror from the past, to as far as the movements
Mm.
and things? Is it something you just thought of, like how you want this person to move and flow, or was it inspired from a particular thing or person?
So, anyone who's watching, Google Purdue Pete, Purdue, Purdue Pete. So he is the mascot for the Boilermakers, and he is terrifying. He like definitely ate a kitten before coming to that football game. Like
Ooh.
he's got these big eyes and this ball peen hammer, and
Oh.
so we modified obviously so we're not looking just like him, but he's absolutely horrifying. So I think when I came across some of these high school mascots and these college mascots,
Hmm.
they're some of them are really unsettling. Like they're just not, I don't know, not friendly. I feel
Yeah.
like they've murdered people. So I thought it was very fun and fit very perfectly that mascot.
Love it.
Not giving anything away, but
Hmm.
it pretty gave me scary vibes, creepy vibes.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then I grew up absolutely terrified after watching Terminator 2, like any other self-respecting Gen X or millennial.
Hmm.
So just the movement of in Terminator 2, I forget the name of his model, but the villain
Oh,
Terminator. It's been a long time, but
yeah. It's been a long time.
he just never like. There's something about him in particular that was just like so much colder and sociopathic than Arnold Schwarzenegger in
Yep.
Terminator 1, and I
Yep.
just love that kind of coldness to how he would approach his prey, so to speak. So I
Yes.
felt very inspired by that and kind of that like detachment. Whereas I feel like Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger was more like badass. I could be wrong. It's been a while since
Yeah.
I've seen them, but I felt like with Terminator 2, it's like, oh no, this is even worse because he like doesn't feel any like I don't know. He was just
Yeah.
much colder.
No, I agreed. I'm exactly understand what you're saying. He was almost just like just he's surgical. He doesn't care. He's there to take care of his of what's and if you get in the way, you're down. Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to do it. And it was a total different feel than Arnold. They were really contrasting.
Yeah.
And so I'm 100%. Uh, Jacqueline says, "OMG, he's creepy. Why did I Google that?" That's
Jacqueline,
awesome.
make sure you watch some like Parks and Rec before you go to bed because I definitely had nightmares about that guy.
Ooh, I'm gonna look it up when we're done tonight. I really am. Um, well, listen. I have to say, as we'll start to wrap here, and I have to say, I will definitely talk to you offline about maybe a revisit again because there's
Okay,
still
great.
lots more I know we could talk about here. We just scratched
Great.
the surface,
A
but
spoiler one where it has a label
bingo, we can
everyone here
flash
can watch it.
spoilers. Yeah, everyone here can watch it because there's a lot of folks that are gonna see it now, and
Yes.
so we can have you back. I'd love to have you back, and we can just we don't have to be guarded on anything. We can just let all this stuff go, and really dive into the spoilers. And but I have to say though, Leanne, this has been a real joy to have you here tonight. This time has gone by so quickly, and
Yes.
I'm just so thankful again that you would make the time to come talk about this great movie. And I have to ask you, as our final, I guess my final question, then I'm gonna have a comment. What's next? Are you? I know this just has been out, right? Or it's only been out 2 months. I'm already like, what's next? Um, yeah. What is on the horizon? Because I have a feeling after watching this that this is just the beginning.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm starting the process of getting number 2 underway. So it's always a
Yes.
Herculean feat to get a film off the ground, but I'm feeling good about this one. So my next project is called Breaker's End, and it's a ghost story. So
Ooh.
still staying horror for sure. I think Breaker's End is definitely scarier than Student Body. I think Student Body definitely has
Ooh.
horror elements. I would
Yeah.
say I leaned a lot more on like thriller and suspense,
Mm-hmm.
with
Yep.
some moments that I think are frightening. But I think Breaker's End is definitely like much more of like a straight up like scary movie.
Wow.
But I love so it's I would say another coming of age story about a woman just a couple years out of college,
Okay.
and when an old friend of hers gets back in touch, it brings back some trauma and some
Oh.
this toxic relationship that they share, and it brings back some ghosts, psychological and literal.
Oh
So
my.
yes,
This is
definitely.
awesome.
I'm terrified of ghosts, and yet am
Mm-hmm.
very drawn to ghost stories. I
Mm-hmm.
just think that they are so much fun. So yeah, that's in the works nest. So very much hope to be in production next year. This time
Next
next year.
year, really?
That's the hope. That's the hope.
That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm telling you what, and again, I want to have you back very soon, Lord willing, if you're willing to come back.
Of
Um,
course.
Carrie says you had me a ghost story. I mean, Jacqueline says the same thing. I'm already sold. Cannot wait.
Yeah.
But whenever the time comes, let down the road though, when it comes time for this to get rolling, I would love to have you on and bring you on to talk about that movie beforehand, and we can
Great.
tease it. We can get some more eyeballs on it, and
Yes.
get everybody loaded up to watch it. I would love that. I would absolutely love that because
That'd
that
be
sounds.
wonderful.
Listen, a good ghost story is unnerving. It's unsettling, and I'm very excited to see what you're going to come up with for this
Thank
one
you.
because I really enjoy this one. Casteller, real quick in the chat, had a question for you, real quick.
Of course.
He wants to know, or Casteller wants to know, what are your favorite horror films?
Oh, great question. Appreciate that. So I would say So just to name them off the bat,
Yeah.
it follows The Shining, the 1960 classic The Innocents is one of my favorites. The Orphanage, that Spanish film, is gorgeous. Alien, I think, is a great horror film. And I'm trying to think, there are many more. Cabin in the Woods, I know it's like,
Oh,
but
yes.
I definitely was drawn to that with this film of like the comedy ensemble, young person meets. I just think Cabin in the Woods is just a total blast.
Total.
I also, yes, I mean, there are many more, but those are just some that come right off the bat that I think are just, are really wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, Zoe Crawford with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Zoe, for supporting the channel, buddy. Appreciate you, man, as always. Um, that's a good list there,
Oh,
Leanne. I'm
Psycho,
telling you.
of course.
Oh,
Psycho,
Psycho.
of course,
Yeah.
of course.
Oh, man. That's Masterpiece Theater. Literally, Masterpiece Theater. Before there was Masterpiece Theater, there was Masterpiece Theater, Psycho. Cabin in the Woods is amazing. Absolutely. That's
So good.
such a great movie. It's so fun. That's one of those movies where you just have no idea what's going to happen. It will hit you no way. You're just shocked. It's shocking in a good
So
way.
smart. It's
It's so it is.
just every layer, like, you're like, yeah, yeah. You're always, it's so
It's like
exciting.
give me more, give me more. Yeah. Well, listen, Leanne, tell everyone here if they want to check you out more beyond this. I do have links in the description below, guys. So right now I have two links there. I have a link to Leanne's website, and I have a link to the Amazon Prime checkout button for the movie Student Body. So you can actually go to the description after the stream, click the link. You can rent it. It'll open up your browser. You can rent the movie or buy it, like I did, and actually watch it after the stream tonight, which I know some of you guys are already saying you want to do. But Leanne, other than your website, is there any other thing you'd like to share as far as where they can follow you? Any so
I'm on social media sometimes. I kind of, for my personal mental health, don't really go on it often. I am on Instagram sometimes. The name is at LAANWHO at LanWho. So that's one way to follow me. And I would also say, so we're on Amazon. We're also, you can rent or purchase on iTunes and also on Apple
perfect?
TV. And if
Yes.
you like the movie, please, it would mean so much. Please, thank you, Zoe. It would mean so much if you would take the time to rate it. If you go on IMDb, and then if you're also able to go on the app that you rented or purchased it from. And then it goes a long way if you write a little comment about enjoying the film. If you don't like the
Yes.
movie, I'm sure you're a really busy person. Don't worry about taking the time to put your opinion online. But yes, if you enjoy it, it would mean so much. It means a lot to the filmmakers of any project like this to put kind words on the internet, because a lot of people on the internet can be not so nice. So
Yes,
appreciate
unfortunately.
the positive words.
You betcha. Ghostface Fanatic says, I really enjoyed the film. Well done.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And yes, so everyone in the chat, to echo what Leanne said, yes, please do that. I know a lot of you said if you already seen it and how much you love the movie, be sure you do that.
Please.
Take it just a few extra minutes. Leave that ranking, but leave the comment, leave that review, because it does really help. And, you know, just like liking this video helps other people on YouTube find this live stream to watch, it also helps Leanne's film. So please do that. Let's support her all the way 100%. And I know all you guys are amazing. The community here on the channel, they're wonderful people. They're very supportive. So I know you guys will represent us well here on
you.
whatever platform you're renting or buying from.
Yes.
Buy that movie. Don't rent it.
Spread the
Buy
word
it.
too.
And
Tell
spread the, yeah.
all your friends that may or may not like horror movies. Who knows? Maybe they'll like teen coming of age movies.
Yes. Jonathan Stein says, I'm turning it on right now. Perfect. All right. Well, listen, everyone in the chat, thank you guys for hanging out
Thank
with
you.
us. This has been a wonderful time. Appreciate all of you. And if we didn't get to your question tonight, you know, it's not personal. It's just the way that things go sometimes with our conversation. But I try to make sure I hit everybody as much as possible. So, and Carrie says, I will represent a female director, of course.
Thank
Yes.
you, Carrie.
And that was something, Leanne, and I know we're over time, so I won't hold you over, and I respect your time. But that's something maybe next time we can get into, because I did want to get into a little bit of that and how awesome it is to see a female director in a horror thriller genre. I think it's
you.
wonderful, and it's we need more. I think we need more to represent. So thank you for making a kick tail movie and in the thriller horror genre. I love it. I just absolutely loved it. So appreciate everything, and I want to thank you for tonight. This has been a gift, and I appreciate it. And I have thoroughly enjoyed our time together, and I hope
Me
you
too,
have.
Steven. This was so much fun. It was so great to meet everyone by proxy, and this was just can't wait to do it again. We'll do it again.
We'll do it again. Sounds great. Well, guys, in the live chat, we're going to go ahead and shut it down here. Thanks again for hitting the like button on the video, as you guys know, and leave a comment when it posts. I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, this is Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Good night, everybody.